Yeah, I can certainly share some examples of deactivating strategies that many avoidants and fearful avoidants will turn to during times of stress. For anyone that's new to my content, my name is Charlie, and I'm currently healing my fearful avoidant attachment style, and I'm sharing tips to help others begin healing theirs. So, example number 1, they'll pull away suddenly and claim that they aren't ready for a relationship. There's really not much you can do when this happens other than to just let it happen. And that's why I'm such a strong vocalist for no contact. Like, it can really help people detach quickly, especially if you're the type to attach quickly. And as much as I stand up and validate avoidance, we can't bend over backwards for somebody that doesn't want to be with us. The best thing to do when this happens is to just let them go. You have a higher chance of them coming back, at least for closure, if you just let them go. Example number 2, they can become very focused on their partner's flaws and imperfections. Many people who have dated avoidance or fearful avoidance have said that they noticed their partner became cold and emotionless over time, when in the beginning they were so warm and loving. Honestly, as a fearful avoidant, I've been on the receiving end, but I've also been the one dishing it out, so I can understand both sides really well. Many times this is so subconscious that avoidants aren't even aware that it's happening. Now, that doesn't imply that all avoidants are unaware of when this happens. It just means that those avoidants that don't know they're avoidant are often doing it. And the reason they do it is because they don't fully understand that they're struggling with the concept of remaining in this connection or walking away, and beginning to focus on another person's flaws is a really good way to convince yourself that you're better off alone. Example number 3, and this isn't to throw all avoidants under the bus, but some of them, when they are deactivating, can become or be very flirtatious with other people outside of that relationship. So yes, it can happen with avoidance, but it can also happen with anxious people. So it isn't something that's just unique to them. Now, I'm trying my absolute best not to generalize here because no two avoidants are the same. However, many of them, when they're flirting with others in a relationship, they're often chasing that spark. And it is usually an indication that something is lacking in their current relationship, and they're chasing that feeling again. Really, they're in pursuit of butterflies. And it's not uncommon for a lot of avoidants to really like the chase because they struggle with 2 things: the feeling of not being good enough, and during that pursuit, they are proving that they are worthy of love. And if they can get the person, they'll feel good. But also, they haven't learned to get past the chase part. Many unaware and unhealed avoidants that haven't done any research, therapy, or healing will be so addicted to this cycle, and that's often why they resort to other things that can cause chaos within a relationship, because to them, that energy, that intensity and emotion is equivalent to the honeymoon phase. So that's often why many avoidants or fearful avoidants, and myself being guilty of this at one point, will flirt with other people even if we don't want to break up with someone. And reconciling that is really important. It's one of those things that I and myself learned was linked to a mother wound. And once I started doing that, the desire for other people's validation outside of the relationship, immediately went away. So it doesn't take a lot of work for an avoidant to have these big breakthrough moments. I remember the moment I realized that I was having a bad dream, and I woke up and then suddenly it all clicked. So for some people, it can happen in an instant if the conditions are right, but it does take some other areas of improvement. And at that time, I was going to therapy. So flirting with others is one of the signs, and unfortunately, I can confirm it's true. And example number 4 is pulling away when things are going really well in a relationship or a connection, whether it's new or it's really long term. This will often leave people feeling like it just happened out of the blue. This usually happens because something happens in the relationship for an avoidant where it just becomes for lack of a better term, realer. I know in the past when I've dated avoidance and I wanted to push the relationship forward, encourage it and foster it to become more official and take those next steps from being a couple to becoming engaged to moving in together and having a house, that was like really scary for some people. And that was part of what pushed them away. It's really important to consider that we can't control avoidance and what pushes them away. Like, we shouldn't have to operate in this way in a connection because that's just so much emotional labor. All you can do when trying to build a relationship with someone is do the natural things that feels good to you. If that means becoming exclusive, all you can do is advocate for that. If it means getting married, having a family, all you can do is communicate those needs. And if they're reciprocated, then you have someone that's willing to work with you. But if you pushing the needle further is what drives them away, then you can't fight harder to keep them in your life. And that's the biggest thing I would give to anybody. Because even though I'm a fearful avoidant, I've dated other fearful avoidants that made me so anxious that I fought and tried so hard to keep them in my life. So it's really important to consider that as we learn more about avoidant attachment, it helps us learn more about our partners, our exes, or even the people we are attracted to. But it's also important to not forget about your own attachment style. And I'm mainly calling out my anxious, preoccupied peeps here. I find in my experience that many anxious, preoccupied people can spend a lot of mental energy thinking and focusing on other people, especially avoidance. It's one of the various reasons why my videos about avoidance often go viral when my videos about anxious, preoccupied people tend to be really underwhelming and they don't perform as well. My point is, if you're an anxious, preoccupied person, and the moment you've learned enough about avoidance to better understand yourself is the moment you can actually start doing some deep, serious work for your own attachment style. So don't get too caught up on other people who may have walked away from an otherwise amazing connection with you, and shift that mental focus over to yourself because that energy is better invested in you.